Hello everyone and welcome to today's stream. Hopefully you can hear me okay and everything is working. And yeah, I hope you're having a wonderful Wednesday so far. As you can see, we are getting cracking with another new character today. They are a Kalashtar Gunslinger, which is a class I haven't done for quite a little while. And yeah, we're gonna have some fun working on some line art and then starting the colours depending on how quickly we get line art done. And Prebble, thank you so much. Yeah, my week's going very well, thank you. Trying to keep it fairly chill. Yeah, we are going to get this lovely character moving. So, hey, Tomahawk Kid. Yeah, this character belongs to Tomahawk Kid in chat, so any questions regarding the character, you know, if they feel up for sharing, then that's who to direct them to. Alright, so I'm just going to turn down the opacity on the sketch nice and low, make a new layer. Call it line art, as that's what this is, and start with our starting colour. We might need to resize the canvas, but I will address that in a second. Okie dokie, so let me just see how are we feeling about this canvas size. Yeah, I think this canvas size is alright actually, we don't need to go any bigger for this. So I'm going to start with a 7 and go from there. Thank you again so much, Rebel Sarita, for the host. Always very appreciative. Thank you so much. Okay, and as usual, I'm just kind of starting by very gently lining the far side of the face. I don't know why I've always started with this side of the face. Maybe it's a... don't know. Maybe it's just like a habit of a lot of right-handed people. Across the jawline, trying to keep the line art, especially around the face. You want your, that's where you want your line art to be nicest and cleanest. If you're gonna make concessions anywhere, don't do it on the face. The face needs to be crisp and clean. Zero-sum game. No worries at all. Like I said, I'm getting through the list. I've done probably at this point about like 10 or 11 commissions from the list. And I am about a quarter of an hour in to the submissions because, woof, you people got on that really fast. Yeah, gosh. But yeah, I'm getting there with it, taking time. But if you want to wait a little while, zero-sum game, that's absolutely fine. We can 100% work that out for you. And you don't need to lose your slot or anything. For reference, I have now responded to everyone who got the full body painterly and the full... Actually, no. I haven't responded to everyone who got the full body painterly. I have responded to everyone who got the ref sheet commission type. So if you were after a ref sheet commission, I have responded to everyone who got one of those now. So I will be getting to you soon, everyone else who asked for a ref sheet and sadly I've run out of spots for them. And then we can chat about what you would, if you would like another slot, or if you prefer to wait until next time. Okay, so we've got the side of the face looking nice. What I might do before we move on is I'm just going to do the neck, pop the neck in now before I start working on the features and the hair. Just because I might as well whilst I'm here and I have this brush size selected. Alright, now let's do the facial features. Now at this point it's good to size down. I like to jump down to a 5 or a 6. In this case I'm going to go to a 5. And I'm going to start just popping in the facial features starting with the lips. This is a very serious gruff lady. Ooh, zero-sum, good luck. Okay, there's the lips. Let's move up to the nose. Got a very frowny kind of determined expression here, so that's going to scrumple up the nose a tiny bit. Whoops, sometimes Photoshop does that lately. It's been getting quite blobby. Very gently going to put in the diamond there, not making it too heavy. Oh, quietly Freya, enjoy! Oh, that'll be really fun. I hope you enjoy it when it arrives. shapes of the eyes. Trying not to go too heavy with the lines. Oh, the math print one. Yeah, I know the one. It's like a really cool, like 80s vaporwave, like math symbols dress, and I love it. It's so cool. I'm not actually going to draw in the pupils because this character has solid black eyes, and we're going to have some fun with doing some cool stuff with that in a bit. Oh, Les, thank you so much. That piece was an absolute joy to work on. I had a lot of fun with that character. And yeah, I think that's the first time I tackled a reborn. So that's pretty cool. I'd never drawn one before. I mean, obviously they only came out fairly recently, but you know, still pretty cool. Gonna follow the eyelid around and down. Once again, leaving out the pupils. There we go, that's great. Now let's get in the brows for this funny face. Oh yeah, I bought my corduroy dungarees, the green ones, in the end, and I'm so happy with them. I just need an opportunity to wear them, because it's like, I can't just wear them around the house. It feels like a waste. Angry. Okay, cool. Now we can get started on the hair. Now usually I'd make a new layer for this, but since the hairstyle is not quite so wild as some of the ones I've done recently, I'm going to keep it on the same layer. Ugh, my back seriously hurts today. I spent most of this morning working out some dagging on some sleeves for another LARP costume that I'm working on. I'm going back into doing some costume making at the moment. And I don't know if anyone is familiar with the term dagging, but it basically is in medieval clothing when you have like the patterns or kind of like the shapes in the fabric which are cut out. And it takes a long time to do. Yeah, so I was kind of crouched over my desk doing that for a lot of this morning, and I've killed my back. Alright, okay, let's just continue around here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put in, actually I'll just put them in now while we're here, why not? Let's put in these little flicks of hair that are just kind of falling down the face, unrestrained by the ponytail. Hey, Monkey Masters! Welcome! I'm very pleased you could make it today. Oh, Zero Sum Game. It is on my, it should be one of the first things on my Twitter page, as I only uploaded it last night, so that's probably the best place to try and find it. It's also on the Instagram, though. I did put it on Instagram. Oh dear, sorry Rebel. Nightbot's coming down hard, it seems. Whoops. It's alright. Nightbot can be like that sometimes. Oh, good luck, you're writing for a pitch? That's so exciting. Oh, I haven't done any pitch stuff for ages. I made a full pitch document for an animated show while I was at uni. I was so proud of it. Obviously it went nowhere, but it was a really fun exercise to create it. Alright, we've got another little wisp of hair over here. There we go. And now we can do the rest of like the body of the ponytail. But before we do that, I'm just going to quickly tidy up down here where the hair is crossing in front of the chin, so we can get rid of that line there. There we go. What next? Let's see. Let's just continue, I think, going down here. Get all these bits that are kind of captured in the ponytail. Oh, exciting. Okay, sorry, I was confused for a second. I thought you meant like a pitch to, I don't know, like a publisher or something. That's still very cool, and honestly, it's kind of humbling that someone considers it a pitch to send their character stuff to me, so thank you so much. Okie dokie. Lovely. Okay, and then we've just got a little bit, you can kind of see the hair as where it comes from the neck down there, and then we have this huge ponytail. But what I might do before I start on the ponytail is to do a bit of the collar, just so we've kind of got that to show us where that's going to be. No, you're right. I think, pitch is probably the right word. I just hadn't really thought about it like that before. I love finding characters with like the high collar style outfits. They're very fun. Moonfolk, that's very cool. Thank you so much to Tiny Shell. That's an adorable name, by the way. And Fragilitis. I hope I am saying that right. Also, I think someone is cutting down a tree outside, so I'm sorry if you can hear a loud whining sound. I believe it's some sort of chainsaw. But had to have the windows open because it's a lovely sunny warm day here, which honestly makes a delightful change. We've had a lot of rain recently. Alright, let's just do this inner collar while we're here. I'm going to jump back down to a 5 again, just because we've got a little bit more detail kind of playing around. Coming up and around, joining on that side, and then with a little bit of fabric folds in the hatching coming down across. Thank you so much to Sprinkler417 for the follow. Hope you enjoyed the stream. Hell yeah, it is Gunslinger time here. We're rootin' and we're tootin'. There we go. I'm just going to put a tiny bit of edging around the outside of the shirt. Ignore my door. Whenever the windows are open, the breeze makes my door kind of flap about a bit. Okay, now I think we can tackle the hair. I think the time is nigh. So I'm just going to start with a little band coming across there, which is kind of the thing tying the hair up. You can barely see it because most of it's kind of hidden behind the hair itself. Righteous Gambit. This is a D&D character. They are a Kalashtar Gunslinger. I believe the Commissioner may indeed still be in chat, and they can tell you all about her. What's her name again? Her name's Darren. Whoop, Photoshop. Let's not play this game today. I'm very excited though. A friend of mine is organising a big VTM LARP event for 2023 involving like hiring out this beautiful country house. It's going to be very expensive, but it's going to be like a thing one saves up for over the course of a few years. And they just announced it today, and oh, I'm so excited. VTM LARP is like my guilty pleasure. Okay, just making sure all of these kind of strands of hair are kind of looking nice and following the right shapes. Yeah, so it's coming together all right. Yeah, we got more Kalashtar around here. Yeah, it's funny. I realised I've never actually played Kalashtar before. I just kind of play so many tieflings. But they seem like a really fun lineage to play. Just gonna tidy up that bit down there, and then we've got just a loose strand over here. There we go, coming together. Now we shall do just a bit of hair that's coming around here, and then we can continue with the rest of the clothing. I love doing little strands of hair like this. It can be really fun. It's the little things, you know. Alright, while we're here, I might actually put the shoulder of this big trench coat. Duster jacket, if you want to call it. Also very excited, I officially made contact with some folks over the last few weeks and have been starting preparations for getting a puppy. Still going to be a long time. We're probably not going to get a pup until like May of next year, but kind of got to start the process earlier and do a lot of preparation and research, so I'm so excited. Oops, that's not the brush tool, that's the eraser tool. What are you doing, Rachel? Thanks, Rebel. You can absolutely bet that when the little pup arrives, I mean, obviously when they're very small, depending on where my partner is, I might have to cut streams down a little bit. But as soon as they're old enough, I'm probably going to set them up like a little chill, cuddly area up here so they can chill out in this room while I'm working. And I'll absolutely make sure they say hi. Puppy cam, oh my gosh, you're so right. Alright, so I quite like how this coat is coming together. I'm just going to follow these lines down. Just trying to get in a tiny bit of kind of, a little bit of fabric folds down there, but most of the time it's going to be kind of straight, kind of woolen coat rather than leather. What this playlist is, this is music by an artist named Kai Engel. Pop this in here. It's all on the Free Music Archive, I believe, and this particular song is from the most recent, one of the most recent albums. I think it might be called Augmentations or something. But it's very good, chill, ambient music. It's great for streams. I know it's used in quite a lot of actual play live streams. But it's good stuff. It's good, chill stuff. No problem at all. Yeah, puppy probably won't stay still enough to stay in frame. I mean, if anything, you know, if the Critical Role has taught us anything, it's that Omar will not stay still for as long as one ad read, so there's not much hope. Okay. Let's get all of these nice folds in the fabric. At the arm, you always get a lot of fabric ruching up around the arm when you kind of bend it up like that. See how it looks like without the sketch underneath? Writer's Gambit, thank you so much. Yeah, this one's got a very fun outfit. Hopefully we can start colouring in the stream today. Colouring in, yay! Follow the sleeve around here, give it a little bit of a hem on there, and then just do the same with this strap. As long as you're gonna blink dog. Well, I can't be sure, obviously, before you bring the dog home. There's no way to tell if you actually do have a blink dog, so do bear that in mind. Okay, so this segment's done. It's time to draw the hand and the firearm. I always have to do loads of research when it comes to characters with firearms because you just don't see them in this country at all. Hey Elleran, welcome to today's stream. We are doing Gunslinger today, which is quite apt for the dramatic music. Just gonna cut that edge down a tiny bit. Thumb was a little bit too big. of course, we've got the bottom of the gun here coming around. We've got this kind of nice decorative kind of inlay, which I'm just gonna put a little bit of just accessorizing on there. Hey, quick draw, very good. Excellent pun. Starting strong today, I see. There's the index finger up there, and then of course we have, I'm just going to actually down to a 4 because we've got a lot of little details in here. Starting with the trigger. Ooh, let me jump. It's the problem with having windows open. There is always a draft. If you could just calm down, door, that would be great. Me leap out of my skin in the middle of a stream is just rude. Just up to a 5, just to make the edge on there slightly bigger. And we've got some more decorative kind of filigree metal around here. The way I kind of imagined this is a shot was just either taken or a kind of, it's like you holding it up as a warning to be like, don't make me do it, because I will. I don't know, I'm sure that's how guns work and shooting. The important thing is to pose and show off with your weapons, and that's the important thing for any D&D character. No matter what weapon you've got. Okay. The good thing is, actually, though, I've definitely seen more flintlock pistols than I have regular guns, so that does also help. Okay, a lot of little detail bits are coming out quite nicely. That's true. Elleran, thank you for the trivia. Okay. Thank you so much to Dark Paladin 06 for the follow. I hope you enjoyed the stream. Let's just draw the kind of the stock coming up here. I need a little bit more in the way of decorative flourishes near the top before the barrel. Oh, there could well be a wisp of smoke. I could totally put one of those in when I get to the kind of end game stage. Alright, finally the last section of the gun. And there we go. Oh, last bit. Sorry, I forgot about this bit. Okay, there is the firearm all lined in nicely. Dramatic whiffs of smoke are always good. Alright, cool. So with that arm done, we can probably make our way down the coat next, I think. We'll go back up to a 6 for this. I just want to hint at, you know, the shape of the coat. I don't want it to be completely straight. There we go. And then the coat is going to come over, tuck behind the hip, and flare out. we go. Just putting a slight edge on it to keep it in 3 dimensions. And then we can just add a tiny bit more creasing in there. And start on the other arm. And don't forget to say thank you so much for the reminder, because I would have forgotten. Leza, thank you so much for joining me today. It's always lovely to have you here, and I hope you have a fantastic week. I'll see you on Friday. Okay, we've got a very kind of creased sleeve here. Don't know if like you watch kind of the way sleeves work around the arm, and they do really kind of bunch up, especially if you've got the arm down by your side. Thank you so much to Paincreeve for the follow. Thank you very much for joining the stream today. And hello, hey, it's Kay. Welcome, lovely to see you again. Today we are painting Kalashtar Gunslingers. Okay, there's a little full view for you. And we're just going to go ahead and continue adding all these fabric folds and creases to the arm. And when it comes to kind of fabric folds like this, these are 100% taken from reference. I'm looking at a bunch of photographs of people wearing this style of coat, and then just kind of cherry picking the way I want the folds to work. And that is the best way to do it often. The way to get a most realistic looking piece is to do exactly that, is to kind of work directly from photographs. Especially with something quite complex like sleeve folds. Again, I think it's at this point, because I've done it so many freaking times, that I kind of know where the creases are going to fall. Like, I can predict where they'll be, and as a result, I can kind of work them in fairly quickly now. And then we've got the bottom of the sleeve coming in here. Thank you so much to Venetia Page for the follow. Bree, MC Bree, it's the problem, isn't it? You know, it's tough. It's tough being queer as fuck and being able to draw so many beautiful characters. There we go. Let's just do the lower hand now while we are here. There it is. Eleran's back, and the puns are coming thick and fast. Let's just finish with this hand. Okay, there's the other hand, and now we just basically have to line down the kind of outfit and the body. So let's say it again. Oh dear. Oh, baggy sleeves and traditional Japanese clothing, very difficult. Yeah, no, that's definitely a hard one. Like, the more excess fabric you have, the more difficult it's going to be, because it's like, where does it all go? Sometimes tighter clothes are much easier to draw, sometimes they're not, because sometimes you can get hundreds of tiny little folds. It's like when you see PVC or like latex style clothing, like superhero outfits. In real life, like, there's so many tiny creases there. Like, they're not smooth skin. It's almost impossible to find clothing that just lies smooth against the skin like that. Yeah, leather and fabric do bunch up quite differently. Often I find one quite useful thing is like thick wool coats, which is what I'm kind of going for with this. Can behave in a similar way to leather, because obviously the fabric's quite the fabric's quite thick. But if you've got like a velvet coat, I know velvet dusters are quite nice looking. I've had a couple of characters wearing that kind of thing. That's gonna have a completely different texture to leather or thick wool. Alright, we've got a cute little tie up here, so let's just pop that in now as well. A little bit of creasing going on there. like she's a private detective in Faerun. Catching the murderers one at a time. And of course there'll be some fabric folding coming across the shirt there as it kind of tucks in with the tie into the waistcoat. Okay, now we can actually do the waistcoat. So we've kind of got the line at the very front that's going to come all the way down here, and it's going to get kind of a little bit crinkly around the waist where you naturally get some kind of folds. So that's going to have some creases in there. Not too massive. I don't want to overdo the creases to make it look like it doesn't fit her properly, but I still want there to be kind of some. A little bit more subtle than what's going on in the sketch anyway. Alright, we've got obviously the hips there, but before we kind of move on, we've got the inner kind of seam here, and if you kind of look at the way clothes are constructed, often to get a feminine cut on things like waistcoats and certain dresses and blazers, you will have a sort of seam that goes up to the bust from the waist, and that can often give you a nice sort of shape in your clothing. And then of course let's put in these little buttons. These I'll probably put more detail on in the colouring layers. There we go, and there's the waistcoat. Now we can move on to the belt and the cute little holster that's hanging down there. Yeah, so sewing darts is a pain. You know what's even more of a pain than sewing darts? Sewing patterns that don't have darts. I've been working on a 14th century style kind of dressmaking recently for Empire LARP, because the faction I play in is strongly based on 13th and 14th century England and France. And there were no princess seams or darts on dresses or tunics in those days. Instead, it was just the panels are so closely and carefully shaped that you get the flattering silhouette without using any sorts of darts at all. So it makes it quite a challenge. I'll have to, like I say, when I've got some pictures of the finished product, I will have to share them, because it's been quite a cool project to work on. Oh look, spam in chat. Usually, Nightbot filters that out. What do you know? Fortunately, I don't think my mod's in chat today, annoyingly, so. We'll just bury it under more useful conversation. Cyber Spectre, I'm doing very well. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been a pretty good day. I've done a lot of sewing and costume making, which is helping me kind of chill out. It's like my chill out activity. Yeah, I've worked on some really cool characters lately. Really enjoyed the Reborn. If you checked out my Twitter page recently, you would have seen that one went up last night. Just had some really cool commissions. So thank you all so much, everyone who's been commissioning me to draw these gorgeous characters. This is probably like the best batch yet. Hey, woo, thank you, something, spam something, thank you so much for the sub there, woo, that is very kind of you. How do I figure out the creases on clothing? It is really difficult. When I was younger, I used to have all of those kind of how to draw manga books. They were like my first introduction to trying to learn to draw like people and things like complex clothing and stuff. And they can be quite a useful start point. I found the most useful thing for me is to do studies of the kind of clothing that I'm struggling with. So, for example, if I'm drawing a duster jacket like the one this character's wearing, I will use a lot of photos to reference when I'm constructing the image. So, for example, I'll have literally a photograph of the arm of a duster jacket right here, and I'll be like closely observing where all those creases are and replicating them. And I think the most important thing to remember is like, an arm is a flesh tube. That's today's wisdom. So for example, here is a tube. If you've got creases, they're going to follow the shapes of the tube, so they're going to be slightly curved. There you go. This is like a super quick, terrible drawing just to kind of show you what I mean. They're always going to like flow around the shape like this. So yeah, that's kind of how I think about it. You got to think about what's underneath the flesh tube and what direction those creases are going to take, which is always going to follow the shape of the object. Alright, finish up with these trousers. Venetia page, hopefully that helps a little bit. Thank you so much to Flat Racket for the follow. Hope you enjoy the stream. Right, trouser time. We've got some nice adventuring trousers going on here. Kind of the Jodhpur style. Nice and comfy. Go out on the... Oh god, Ellerin. That one was actually very good, so I can't be mad at that. Monkey Masters, hopefully, hopefully I can get to yours soon. Like I say, I am about quarter of an hour into submissions at the moment. And that has been about 10 commissions I've completed so far. So depending on when you submitted your form, we shall see. Although I'm not necessarily always going in order of when submissions came in. I'm also kind of going in order of trying to space things out so I don't work on like one type of commission all the time. I like to kind of keep a variety so I don't go stir crazy. So yeah, it might be I get to yours pretty soon. We shall have to see. Oh gosh, I've never worn showing Jodhpurs, so I wouldn't know, but I assume they're stiff? Uncomfortable? Maybe? I'm more knowledgeable on dog shows than horse-related shows, I must admit. Whoops, there we go. There's the trousers. Now finally, just to pop it in the little holster part over here, and then the line art is complete, which is very exciting, and we can begin colouring. There we go. And just a little seam down the side there. And there we go. So in this case, we definitely want to save. It's worth mentioning there's one or two things I have missed out on purpose. You can see that this character has these long, ragged scars down the middle of their face. I'm actually going to do those in the colouring stage rather than giving them line art, because if I gave them line art, they might look a little bit too heavy and distract from the rest of the facial features. I knew it, I thought they'd be stiff. Anyway, now we no longer need the sketch, so I'm going to hide that, and we're going to start colouring the face. Starting with all of the skin layers. So I'm just going to drag up my reference sheet. This character is of fair complexion, so that's where we're going to start. Going to start with a fairly rich fair skin tone for now. I prefer to start a little darker and work from there because it's easier to see whether the layer is fully opaque or not if it's a slightly darker colour to start me off with. So let's start filling in our base layer. Oh, also we need to make sure this is set to multiply. Forgot to do that. And what I'm doing here is I'm basically just doing an outline, outlining the area that needs to be filled with this colour. It's pretty simple colour by numbers stuff, but it's kind of the quickest way to approach it for me. Also, wow, I really killed my back today. Oh! Thankfully, because the hair is tied back, we've mostly got fairly easy shapes to flow around. What did I do to my back? I spent all morning sewing a very complicated part of a costume. So I was like hunched over my sewing machine, and now my back hurts. But I'm sure said costume I will be able to show as soon as it is complete. It's like I shared a few photos of the white one I made a few weeks ago, which was kind of like a test run. This is more of a proper project that I spent a bit more money on materials for, so it better work. Oh, Quality Fairy, thank you so much. They were such a fun character to work on. I really like that kind of druidy, craggly look. All the mushrooms. I love it when characters have things growing on them, like little plants and mushrooms and stuff like that. So it was a lot of fun to put in all those details. Okay, nearly there with this face. Just going to finish going around the hairline, then we can join it all up and fill it all in. Oh, that's so exciting. I love making costumes so much, and I'm just a bit sad because the decision was officially made this week that Empire LARP, the last game of 2021, is officially cancelled, which is a super shame because now we have to wait till 2022. But in the same time, it's kind of a relief because things are not super safe around here right now. Alright, just getting rid of all of these nasty white lines that the paint bucket tool likes to leave behind so that we have a nice solid surface to start shading. And then I'm just going to fill in the hands while I'm here. Might as well get all the skin tone base layers done whilst I'm equipped with it. Also, please ignore my stomach if it's rumbling. It is most certainly getting on for dinner time. And I guess I'm hungry. Whoops. Not joining up its lines there. Photoshop being naughty. I'm actually just going to paint straight over this bit. You'll see why in a minute. Just 'cause it's a bit easier to erase than it will be to paint around that manually. Yeah, it's a real shame. I think LT is still going because it's a smaller group. Empire is like nearly 3,000 people strong, so it's quite a big game to run in the current climate. A Noms emote. That's a pretty good one actually. I still haven't finished the Reza emote that I started making ages ago. I need to finish that one. Add some more emotes to the channel for sure. Especially since the channel's growing, which is really exciting, and I'm incredibly grateful to everyone for allowing that to happen. So thank you all so much. Just gonna quickly erase around where the trigger is. Okay, there's the right hand, her right. Now to do the left. Where is Shiny's lair? Shiny's lair will be here soon. Do not you worry. Shiny's lair will be arriving. Okay. Alright, and then as before, we're just going to fill in that space. Paint, 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 paint. Get rid of those white lines. Gross, gross, gross. We don't like those. And now we can start the fun part. So, the first thing and most important thing we want to do is we need to hit that little button up there, the alpha channel lock. We need to put our brush settings back to normal. And we start off with a little blush. So I'm going to move the slider slightly towards pinker colours and slightly more saturated and dark. And then we're going to paint the Animal Crossing villager shaped nose on there. Then we are going to size up our brush and basically do like a blush raccoon mask over the eyes and cheeks. Fairly roughly, it doesn't need to be too neat. Then with a slightly smaller brush we can go in and just blend that down. And there we go. And now it's important to grab the lighter colour again, zoom in a bit and just put back the lighter colour on the little nose highlight there. And then we can start the actual shading. So, I'm going to start by grabbing a slightly darker colour. I'm going to keep an eye on my reference pictures for this character while I do it. Slightly larger brush, we are going to add some shadow in the inner corner of the eye there. Especially because this character's got a big frowny face going, so you're going to get slightly more emphasized shadows in this area. And I'm just going to actually blend them in a tiny bit, because you do really get a noticeable darker kind of patch in there. Alright, next we're going to size down the brush a little bit. Just shadow in the eyelids, so it's very clear where they are. Really kind of align the eyes. Although it's not quite eyeliner. Yes, alpha channel. So for example, with this alpha channel locked, I can do this and just draw right across the page, but the paint will only take where there's already paint present. Alright, I'm just going to pop a little bit of blending up on that top corner there. Grab our dark colour again, and now it's time to add some shadows elsewhere on the face. So I'm going to start with the nose. We have a kind of little triangle that extends underneath, and then following the shape of the nostrils, we are going to pop in the shadows here. And then following that, you tend to get some shadow underneath the lip, so we can put that in there. Sometimes Photoshop likes to go a bit extreme. Thanks, Photoshop. And in those cases, sometimes it's worth taking the original colour and cutting back in. I'm actually going to minimise that a bit more, it's a little bit too wide. Yeah, alpha channel is very, very simple way to make your life easier when it comes to tidying up later on. Yeah, that also happens. You kind of forget sometimes it's on and be like, oh, why can't I paint here? Why am I banned? Alright, little bit of shadow there in the corner of the mouth, and then we're going to go ahead with a large brush and put the shadows in for the chin and the neck. Obviously we're wearing this high collar, so that's also going to be popping some shadows on our character, as well as the tie and the going down into the neckline here, which is why I popped some more shadows going down there. But since this is the flat shaded style, it doesn't need to be super smooth. This is slightly more kind of graphic art vibes. And then of course we can go ahead and put some shadow in the ears as well. I usually do the ears after I've started using the darker shading colour, but sometimes like now I'll build up just a little bit of a starting point before I start using my darker shadows. And of course there will be shadows cast by these little wisps of hair as they come down and kind of shadow on the face like that. A little bit up top as well, just from the hairline, keeping it fairly subtle. As for the hands, I'm just going to go ahead and wash those slightly darker. I usually like to start hands a bit darker. Especially the lower kind of the hands are on the composition, so the hand down by the hip will be darker than the one up in the air. Alright, so next thing to do is to get a darker shade of pink and deepen these shadows. Kind of incremental. I tend to do 2 steps with kind of darker points therein. Yeah, Righteous Gambit, me too. I like this stage a lot. Colouring in from the corners of the eyes to give them a lot of nice shape. Just a little bit under the lip there. And then we're going to take quite a lot under the chin, because that's where shadows tend to get quite dark. And over here at the base of the neck. And then we can kind of blend these in a bit. Oops, that's a bit too dark. There we go. Taking these darker shadows into the kind of ear zone. And then finally, we're going to want some even darker shadows. Again, moving towards pink every time we do it. Let's just save again. To add some really dark shadows in a few key places, such as this little crease inside the eye, the edges of the eyelid, and the kind of inside ear. And there we have a rendered face ready to go. I keep accidentally selecting that tool. Nope, I want the paintbrush. Give me what I want. Lovely. So now I'm going to quickly do the same thing with the hands. And add some shading to those. Hey, Dark Storm! Welcome! It's been a little while. It's lovely to see you here. And it's understandable, I have had to stream at some weird times recently. But hopefully that time in my life is over and we can get back to the normal scheduled streams. Alright, there is some basic shading there. We're just going to grab a darker colour for some dark shadows, just probably around the butt of the gun. And just coming down from the fingers a tiny bit, just to make them stand out from each other somewhat. Lovely. Now we should do the other hand. Same approach. Remembering to add a nice bit of dark shadow kind of conjured by the sleeve there. That's the first layer, and then we're going to grab that darker colour just to add some extra dark bits of shadows. So the inner kind of fingers, cast by the arm sleeve there. And finally, what we can do is we can grab a slightly lighter colour and add some highlights to these fingers. And just the pad of the hand there, a bit of extra light. And then finally down here, fairly subtle because it's a little bit darker down here. There we go, there are the hands. Now there's one more thing I want to do. I'm going to go ahead and make the overlines layer, which is the layer I do on top of the line art, kind of obvious, I know. And we are going to just pop in some fingernails. I'm just going to check, see if this character has painted nails. I don't think she does. Okay, so with unpainted nails, I tend to select a colour that's just slightly lighter than the colour underneath. And because we're in the overlines, we can go... This should be on top of the line art. Silly me. It's not overlines if it's not over the line art. Just pop in the shape of the nails. There we go, that's the hands looking nice. So next up we are going to just pop in the lips and finish the eyes off. So starting with the lips, this character doesn't appear to wear a whole lot of makeup, so I'm going to keep them fairly simple. I'm going to move the colour slightly towards reds anyway, because you do get a build-up of blood vessels, and almost everyone has naturally slightly rougier lips than the rest of their face. So the top lip's nice and dark, that's a good place to kind of start as an anchor. And the bottom lip usually is slightly brighter. Alright, so with those both filled in, we can go ahead and add a little bit of shading, starting with the bottom lip and just using the same color we used for the top lip to shade it with. And sometimes you do want to do a little bit of blending just to make the shape look nice. Well, yeah, this is quite emphasized, but everyone has more kind of blood vessels near the surface in the lips. So whilst they might lose some of the red color, they'll pick up other colors. There's always a subtle difference between the lips and the rest of the face. So it's a little bit of darker color just to shade the corners of the top lip now. And then finally, we're going to add a little bit of light, a little kind of reflection on the lips, just to make them stand up a bit. There we go. Next up is going to be the eyes. Now, these eyes are a lot of fun. They're going to be quite spooky. I'm first of all just going to add a little bit of highlight here and there. With a small brush, I think a size 5, going back to the size 5 which is furnished as well today. We're going to start with a highlight on the eyelid. And then a bit of light right in that inner corner of the eye there. This kind of helps them stand out a bit. You can see it gives them quite a nice shape. And then we are going to go ahead and start working on the eyes themselves. So make a new layer for those. The eyes are going to be all spooky and a very dark, almost black color, which I'm going to derive from a very dark, almost black sort of pink. Alright, just Gambit, do you know if most of your commissions are for new characters or for old established characters? As far as I'm aware, most of the commissions I work on are for kind of current D&D characters, rather than older characters. It seems to be that people want art of the character they're playing right now, rather than older characters. Although I've definitely had it that a few commissions have been kind of older characters that have been kind of well loved, but not necessarily currently played. In terms of established characters, meaning like canon characters from different franchises, no, I never really get those commissions. For example, I've never really been commissioned to draw any like Critical Role stuff. If that's kind of what you mean, it always tends to be like original kind of OCs and stuff. Alright, so what we need to do now is add a little bit of shading, even darker than they currently are. So we're going to go ahead, add shadows to the top and bottom, like so. Some spooky eyes. And now is when we can do something fun. So this is going to be a little bit experimental, and Tomahawk Kid in chat, if you want to kind of change the direction of anything, do let me know. But I'm going to start working on a ring to suggest the shape of the iris rather than having a pupil that stands out. I'm going to just zoom out to make sure these eyes are roughly looking at the same thing. They are. Getting eyes balanced is super hard and I hate doing it. I think every artist hates balancing out eyes. I'm going to take that darker shadow color and use that to fill up the middle of the eye. Zoom out again. Yeah, that's kind of working. What I might do is I'm going to move this way very slightly. That's better. Yeah, so the sclera and the kind of pupil are both black for these eyes. Now we're just going to build up the colour gradually. I'm going to do this on the overlines layer. So we have a kind of silvery ring. And sometimes it's nice to add a bit of a gradient to that central area. I might get rid of this, we'll see how I feel about it. I think it gives them a little bit more shape. And then one last bit of shine on that side here. And yeah, Tomahawk Kid, let me know if this sort of thing is working for you. Whoops, don't know why I did that. Let's just put that back. Tiny bit, ooh, that brush is too big. Tiny bit of blending. Just there. And finally, I hope Elaran, I hope you're still here. We are going to make a new layer. It is indeed the Shinies layer. And we are going to add a little fleck of reflected light, which is really going to help highlight just how dark the eyes are. Shiny layer, let's go. It's here, everyone. But yeah, so I'm just going to save again before we move on with the next thing, which is going to be probably hair and eyebrows is the next thing to tackle. So, the eyebrows, this character has dark red eyebrows. So let's start with that. I'm going to do this on the skin layer, I usually do. I'm going to derive it for some reds we already have. In fact, no I'm not, I just lied. We're going to derive it from slightly pinker red, and we're going to start with a dark reddy brown as the base for these eyebrows. I'm just quickly and carefully filling in these shapes. You don't need to be super careful here because at the end of the day, eyebrows be furry. So there's going to be a little bit of natural kind of messiness, I guess is the word. I'm going to jump all the way up to the overlines there right away. I'm going to go ahead, select my favorite hair rendering brush. You've heard me go on about this brush set a million times in the past, and use this to add some more red highlights. Like so. And then it is time to start on the hair itself, which means making a new layer underneath and calling it hair. Which reminds me, we never actually named the skin layer, which was most bad of us. And we can also go ahead and merge down the dark base for the eyes. Okay, so with the hair layer, the first thing we're going to want to do is put down a base layer. Now, the base for this character's hair is pure white. So what we're going to do, we're going to take, we're going to start with a kind of pinky magenta and grab a sort of very pale grayish pink. Oh my goodness, Rebel, thank you so much for the donation. That is so incredibly kind. Thank you so much. That's just amazing. Thank you. That's very, very kind. Thank you. But yeah, let's just whack down this lovely base coat. I'm just gonna save again before we lose everything. Thank you so much, Elaran, for the reminder. And then get this base coat down. I love scary eyes on characters. My favorite to date D&D character, Riza, has eyes with a black sclera and a cat-like amber pupil. And I miss her so much. I really want to play her again. I need to find a D&D campaign where I can play Riza because I miss my feral barbarian sweetheart so much. Oh, Rebel, thank you so very much, as always. And hopefully see you on Friday. Have a wonderful, wonderful week. Yeah, so basically the game that Riza was in, the DM wanted to do something a bit new. They'd already been running a campaign in this setting for quite a while, so we kind of naturally brought that story to a close. And then that's when we started the game that I'm playing Anemone in, and she is the Dampier Druid that I've drawn on stream a few times. Currently, Riza is still out there causing problems and being bad, and just waiting for her next adventure. Alright, let's continue just filling in with this pink. Again, but as before, it's kind of like doing an outline of all the areas that are about to be filled. It's fairly straightforward. Oh, Dalstorm, that's very, very kind. I do actually play quite a lot of... I really enjoy text games. I can't promise I'll be able to be incredibly super active 24/7, but do feel free to ping me a DM. I am color me intrigued. Oh yeah, I remember the Sea Elf Bard. I think I think I might have seen them, unless I'm getting confused with someone else, but I love eyes like this. They're really fun to paint. And yes, D&D is always a victim of scheduling. I would have been DMing tonight, but I've just been too busy this week. I've got a lot of kind of work to catch up with, a lot of cool contract stuff that I can't talk about, that I need to do. So trying to stay chill, which means not DMing tonight, but back with my group next week for our next chapter of Rime of the Frost Maiden, which I adore Rime of the Frost Maiden. It is such a fun campaign. I think I prefer it to Curse of Strahd, which is the other one that's quite fun, because it's similar in the way that it has a wonderful, strong narrative and really good thematic kind of horror vibes. But it's, I don't know, I found it quite different because it's in this kind of frozen tundra environment and just so much fun. There's some really fantastic original monsters that are genuinely terrifying. And I always recommend it. It was chill, Elaran. Yes, it was. Duststorm, feel free. Are you on the Discord? If you're on Discord, feel free to DM me over there. If you're not on Discord, send me a Twitter DM. Righteous Gambit. I mean, sometimes, like, when you're adults and everyone has really busy lives, especially if someone's got kids, you kind of just got to accept that, you know, and just give them a blanket and carry on. Because life is hard and stressful, and the last thing you want is to make D&D stressful, because that's, you know, what you're doing to relax. Okay, let me just fill my heart up with sunshine. Almost done. And there we go. Okay, so we have all of the hair is now base coated and ready to rumble. So what we're going to do is we are once again going to lock this layer. We are going to start moving up through the spectrum, starting with this kind of pink. I'm just going to go ahead, put my transfer setting back to normal, roughly start painting in the lighter areas of the hair, which is going to be this kind of left-hand side, working our way up through the spectrum until we get to a kind of straw color. That's going to be our lightest point for now. And then when it comes to the darks, we are working through towards purples and blues, and those will be our darkest points. And I think you've seen me on stream rendering white hair quite a few times now, but it never ceases to be a lot of fun, so let's go. What I'm going to do, once I've worked out this vague kind of shape, we are going to go ahead and add a Gaussian blur to give ourselves a nice gradient. Next, I am going to, how do I want to approach this? Yeah, we're going to grab a color that's about halfway down this gradient, pick up my favorite rendering brush for hair, which again I talk about every stream, so if you haven't heard me talk about it and want to ask where to get this brush, just pop a question in chat. And we're going to start from the hairline, adding shadows. Always follow the direction of the hair and you will quickly start to work up a nice render. And then you want to remember to come in from the back as well, because you'll have shadows creeping around the back, and if you kind of come from the front and the back, you'll start to get the spherical shape of the head. You'll start to get that nice depth. And I know that there are some red streaks that are going to be in this hair matching the eyebrows, but don't worry, we will get to those after we've got the main bulk of the hair rendered out. Yep, exactly, Tomahawk Kid. The red section is going to be a different layer, so we kind of preserve all of the nice shading and shape of the layers below, but we can essentially just change the colours. Thank you so much to Reasondon for the follow. I hope you enjoy the stream. But yeah, we're just going to continue kind of rendering with this slightly darker purple for a little while. Always, again, trying to follow the direction of the hair as best we can. Oh, forgive me. And then we also are going to be coming out from where the ponytail is bound. Kind of like a bit of a starburst effect. And then bringing some of the shading down there as well. Obviously, we'll want to be shading this ponytail as we go. And then once we kind of reach the end of what that colour can do, we're going to grab a slightly darker colour, from further down on the gradient and use that to shade with. And this color will take us down a bit further. But eventually, as you can see, it starts to blend into the surroundings just too much. And at this point, we need to grab a slightly darker color, so that's exactly what we're going to do. It's very gentle when we do select darker colors. We don't want to jump too far in one go. We do want this to be very gradual. But we can now use this slightly darker color to continue shading and rendering. Whoops, going down too far there. Going right from this bottom of the kind of base of the hair and just following that shape all the way down. It really is a fantastic brush. I can't recommend it enough. Like, there was a point where I kind of made my own brushes for hair, but making portrait brushes is surprisingly hard. And this brush was just a lot better than what I could make at the time. Alright, we're going to carry on this colour over here. Obviously, you might be thinking at the moment, the hair is looking quite grey and colourless and not particularly energetic. Just sit tight. Almost done with this bit of shading. Treating the hair like these strands here as if they're almost like ribbons is a good way to shade them. Okay, so we've gone ahead, we've brought this darker color down. What we're now going to do, grab a lighter color from the gradient and add highlights. And basically we're going to put these anywhere where it seems that the light is going to have an easier job at getting to the hair itself. And sometimes we want to, sometimes we want to make sure that, yeah, pen pressure is all right. We sometimes want to take a slightly more subtle version of this. We don't want to make it too bright where it was before dark. But as a general rule, you can kind of just have a bit of fun adding highlights. I love adding highlights. I find it very fun. You get this really nice kind of sheen that's almost kind of opalescent. I'm going to just take it over here. I think over here is mostly already quite light, so probably won't need too much there. Alright, and then I'm just going to take an even brighter colour, kind of do the same up here, and just in the areas of kind of brightest light that are going to come down. Some of this is also going to get applied to this little twisty bit of hair down here, because it's right on the face, so we want it to have a nice bit of contrast, like over here and here. Alright, so with that done, it's time to change layers briefly. We're going to go to the line art layer, and what we're going to do to make this white hair look like it's actually white hair is we are going to recolor the line art. And to do that, I'm going to take a pale kind of, again, that dusty pink color, go back to my normal brush, make it fairly large, making sure most importantly that the alpha channel is locked right here. And then we're just going to brush right over the hair and color the whole lot of the line art area for the hair in this kind of dusty pink color. I'm going to kind of avoid more the areas that fall over the coat, or just do them very lightly, because that line art's going to be important for keeping the kind of coat area nice and dark. But for the area that's mostly hair, we can go ahead and, as you can see, it immediately makes it a lot softer. There are some areas with natural shadows that are slightly darker, such as around the base down here, so we can use a slightly darker pink on those areas. And in the same way, we can select a lighter pink to go over these top bits, which are obviously very bright. This is a lovely way to get white hair looking really nice and, you know, really nice and sheeny. And it's quite a quick trick that is really useful, so I do recommend it. I'm actually going to go in with a slightly richer red and just paint over the skin lines, because it's not just hair that benefits from this. Skin line art can look a lot better if it's kind of a pinky brown rather than pure black. which is what I'm doing here, just kind of brushing over it there to make it more in keeping with the skin tone. And any place where you have quite light colours can really benefit from this. Alright, and the next thing to do, we're still not done with the hair. We are going to go ahead and colour in those red streaks I mentioned earlier. So we have red kind of coming across and down in this streak here. So what we're going to do, we're going to go back to the hair layer, we're going to make a new layer, set it to clipping mask, and in this case, multiply. I might change this up, we shall see. We're going to take a sort of slightly washed out red, and again, this will probably change. We are going to brush this over the areas which are going to be red, which is this strand coming down the side of the face here. Just immediately kind of taking this nice red colour due to the multiply layer. And then we also are going to have red coming back and joining the ponytail. And I find it's a lot easier to, when you've got multiple hair colours or streaks of colour, it's easier to make a layer that affects the layer below than it is to make an entirely new layer for the colour. Just got a few little strands that aren't quite caught up in the main body of the red, just so it looks a little bit more natural. There we go, there's the red coming down. Might even just do that. And then we have this red is also going to come into the ponytail. I'm just going to check which strand I kind of want it to take into effect. I think I'm going to go down here. Ah, there we go. There is the lore for this character. And because this is clipped to the hair layer below, it's not going to affect any other layers. As before, we can add a few little strands coming into other bits of hair, but for the most part, we're going to keep it in this area here. Oh, 3 is way too small. I never use a size 3. Now 4, on the other hand, I do use. And then what we can do is then we go up to the overlines layer. We can start to do a little bit of final rendering, making sure we have all layers selected. We can grab that slightly darker red and add some loose strands. And this can come into a few places. We can have some over here as well. And we can use it just to tidy up some of the shapes down here, make this look a bit nicer. And finally, we can use it to add another burst of highlight. So what we're going to do is we are going to grab an even brighter tone there. We're going to go back to my favourite hair rendering brush, and we are going to go ahead and just add these brightest layers of highlight just at the crown of the head and a few other key areas. And because this is the overlines layer, it'll sit on top of the line art to give the effect that the light is really brightening up these little areas. So we'll have a little bit of it on the, just on the kind of rounded top of the ponytail. And finally over here where the kind of ponytail is flicking up and over the shoulder. And yeah, it's almost done. We've just got a tiny bit. I just want to give this little strand of hair a teeny bit more love with some highlights. Oops, that's a little bit messy. Let's just redo that a bit neater. we can just highlight this bit a bit as well. But most of all, that is basically the hair. The scars, yes, Tomahawk Kid, the scars will be on a different layer completely, so that they can be kind of edited and messed with as much as we like at a slightly later date. But yeah, that is the hair. There is one more thing we can do. I might not keep it. It's kind of like a thing I like to experiment with white hair. Sometimes it's fun to add some colours. So for example, let's say I wanted this to look a little bit more warm in terms of kind of the colour of the hair. Go ahead, select my favourite brush, make sure we're still on overlay. I'm just going to go ahead, brush this kind of rosy colour, stick on a Gaussian blur, and this can be used to give white hair slightly different undertones. So this one is giving it a slightly brighter look. What I am going to do, I'm going to go into adjustments just to play with this a bit, and you can kind of see the effect this has. You can make it look more purple, more pinky, more silvery. There's a lot of things you can do. Personally, I like to put on a very subtle golden hue just to give it like the kind of nicely lit effect, if that makes sense. And welcome to Sea of Atlas. Thank you so much for joining me. Yeah, there we go. That's basically the skin and the hair painting in a nutshell. I'm going to go ahead and put all the hair layers in a little group there just to keep them together. And the next thing I'm going to do is... let's do her earring. Let's do that now. She's wearing a little silver kind of earring, so we're gonna pop that in. We're gonna start with a very dark grey and go from there. In fact, me too, even darker than this. Yeah, the music did just get real intense, didn't it? But hey, sometimes art is intense. But yeah, I'm gonna start by filling in the basic area of that. Adding a little bit of shadow there on the ear, and then we're going to work our way up through the spectrum to highlight the earring. Get it a nice silvery sheen. Carrying on our way up, I'm going to move towards blue, because silver tends to do that. Ooh. And a size 5. I see how that's looking there. Few final details, and a bright highlight right in the middle here. And then we have a little silver hoop earring, and we're gonna save again. Oh, Tomahawk Kid, thank you so much, and thank you so much to Righteous Gambit for joining me today. Today? What does that even mean? Anyway, the next thing I'm gonna do is her shirt, which is a nice white shirt. The important thing when you're, and this kind of goes for when you're colouring things in with blacks and whites, is you want to think about how your blacks and whites don't just look the same. So nothing is ever pure black or pure white. In this case, the shirt is going to start with a base of a very pale yellowy green. That's often how I do white shirts. Whereas the hair is white hair, but the hair has a base of, I'm just going to make this darker just so I can see it to start with. The hair has a base of purple, and it's all about kind of how you base these colours as to how you make them kind of differentiate with each other and not look like everything's kind of blending into one. VD Lindy, I know, right? That might just be me kind of bleeding through. But yeah, as before, we're just going to go in and slap down the kind of outline for this character, joining it up at the back, filling it in, and then getting rid of the nasty white lines. There we go. And now I can lighten it up so it's proper colour. There we go, pushing it slightly towards yellow there, but not too far. So that's what we're starting with for the shirt. And then we are going to go ahead and fill that in as before. Actually, no, I haven't done this yet. The shadow color I tend to use, the way I shade things, is I will make a layer on top of the one that I've just been working on, making sure the blend mode is multiply, and then I grab a very, very pale pink, and I fill in that entire layer, which, as you can see, darkens the whole lot down a bit. Then I'm going to go ahead, select a pure white, making sure that my transfer is turned down to 0% again. I almost always keep it at 0%. The only reason I've been turning it up is it saves my arm from dying, from having to put down maximum pen pressure to fill stuff in. And then what we're doing here is we are removing areas of shadow where the light hits. And this is how I enjoy working. I find it's a lot more intuitive to start dark and add light than it is to start light and add shadows, because most of the time you're actually going to have more shadows than you are light. It's just all different kind of levels of the same sorts of thing. And while we're here, we might as well go ahead and do the shading for the tie. The tie is going to be black, but that doesn't matter, because if we make the kind of colours for the tie go underneath this shadow layer, then it'll still benefit from them. It's a beautiful thing about adjustment layers. So I'm just going to go ahead and put in all of this kind of shading and highlight now. Making the brush a little bit bigger for doing this kind of shirt creases. Which will disappear up underneath the collar there. Thank you so much to Grumpy Kitten 131, Migaloo, and Orastasia. I hope I said that right, for the follows. I hope you enjoy the stream. Alright, and with this stage done, what we can do is we can grab the current layer option for the eyedropper tool and go ahead and just blend some of these tones in with each other. In areas where the shadows would be soft, it is good to blend. What we can also do is grab a slightly darker colour and add some deeper shadows. Oh, what was the setting for the altered white? So, if you want to paint with a nice soft brush, I recommend this little tick box here, transfer. This is what links your pen pressure to the opacity of your stroke, which basically gives you a really nice soft brush you can use, so that if you press really hard, you get maximum opacity. If you don't, then you get a very gentle, kind of almost semi kind of transparent line. And that I find is completely imperative for blending nicely in Photoshop. I don't know what kind of blending tools Clip Studio Paint has, but Photoshop doesn't have very good blending tools, so all of my blending is done by hand, mixing colours, rather than kind of using a smudgy tool, if that makes sense. But yeah, once we are done just adding in these nice deep dark shadows, remembering to kind of put in things like the neck, obviously casting its own shadow, and the sides of this dark duster jacket, which will also cast shadows in on the shirt there. Once that's all done, we can go ahead very similarly, because we've got this white shirt, we probably want to go ahead and recolor the line art a little bit. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that for the shirt. Same as before. And again, this just makes the line art fit so much better with the paintwork. Next, we're going to add some highlights to the shirt, get it looking nice and bright. We're going to start with the base layer we used before, and then grab a lighter version. Orange Juice God, thank you so much for joining today. If you have any other questions, do not hesitate to ask. And then with this pale colour, we can very gently just add it in a few key areas. Almost like edge highlighting in painting miniatures, I find. And that can just help certain edges really kind of stand out a bit. Then I'm going to make the brush a bit smaller just to do this edge of the collar here. Get that nice and bright. There we go. And then finally, what we can do is we can grab a layer in between the base colours for the shirt and the shading, and we can go ahead, select a very dark, almost black, this is going to be for the tie, and carefully putting my opacity minimum back up just to make the brush a bit more opaque. The only reason I'm doing this is because my arm starts to hurt if I'm having to put tons of pressure on my canvas to get a high opacity. I didn't used to do this, but now I'm kind of looking after myself. And here I'm basically just painting in where the tie sits, and because this is underneath the multiply layer on top, these shadows will still apply. They're not quite so noticeable on a dark colour, as you can see, but that doesn't matter because we can go in with the overlines layer and add a bit of detail. There we go. There we go. Then back up to that overlines layer. All layers, grabbing a slightly lighter tone. We can go ahead, putting my pen back to normal for its nice soft shading, and add some highlights. Just following the flow of the fabric to get a nice, slightly satiny sheen. And if we zoom out, you can see how that looks. There we go. And because my stomach is rumbling very hard and I can tell it's dinner time, I think this is probably where we will save and end for today. So thank you so much to everyone who joined me today. I'm going to drop some links in chat if you want to keep up to date with when I'm streaming, my newest work, and any other projects I might be involved with. Please do check out my Twitter. It's kind of my central hub for my just everything, really. Next up is Instagram. I tend to upload all my artwork to Instagram as well, so do check that out if you want to see some of the other stuff that I've done. I also have a YouTube where I'm very steadily updating my VODs. If you've enjoyed this stream and want to watch some more of my past broadcasts, do go onto YouTube and check those out. I also do some other videos. Particularly there's a series on the lore of the video game Destiny 2, which I'm really passionate about, so yeah, check that out if that is of interest to you. Next up, I mentioned it earlier, but the music I use in my stream is by a wonderful artist named Kai Engel. It's really cool music and it's royalty free, so it's great for streams and it's just got this lovely ambience to it, so check that out as well. Finally, last but most certainly not least, if you would like to support the work I do, two of the great ways to do that are either to subscribe here on Twitch. If you have a spare Prime subscription you're not using, please consider throwing it my way. I will be eternally grateful. Or you can subscribe over on my Patreon, which nets you a few tasty rewards, such as exclusive artwork. You get to see works in progress and sketches, get commission priority, and all sorts. Bear in mind, both subbing on Patreon and Twitch both give you access to my little sub-exclusive Discord, where you can share your own art, get some feedback, just talk about D&D and all sorts. It's a very chill place I try and keep nice and wholesome. But that, I think, is everything. Thank you so very much for joining me today. It's been a really nice chill afternoon. I will be back later this week on Friday at 5 PM UK time again for another installment of some Dungeons & Dragons character art. I might be working on this character, or I might be working on something completely new. We will have to wait and see. But until then, stay safe, look after yourselves, and I will see you all very soon. Goodbye for now!